The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps to cabin link check.
2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the R.I.F.T Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Hello. Happy Friday, everybody. How are you guys doing? Hello. Heidi, Zaza, Howie, Lewis, Mandy. Hello. So happy you guys are here. I want to take this moment to first apologize about last week. I was ready to go, and then at the very last moment, some tree fell on the transformer on the pole and blew it, and we were out of power until midnight. So, hello, Virginia Storms. Hello. Stopped in on Meta to show some love, going over to YouTube. Yay, I've been hearing like there's been some issues and it's better if you're on YouTube. I don't know, but hey, I'm happy you're here. Let's see. Hello, Kristen. Just want to get everybody up here. Hello. Happy summer solstice, guys. Does anybody do anything special? Let me know. I made sure to get outside. My AC in my house decided to take I don't know what, and it's not working properly. So we made sure to get outside a little bit today. Last Friday was rough, but we are still moving along. On a good note is on Tuesday, I graduated and finished my mentor's tarot course. So I got my certification in that. It was a 2-year course that we did, and she broke down every card, and I graduated that, and that was exciting. So that was my exciting part of the week. Yeah, I need to come over there, Heidi, in Colorado, because you guys have much cooler weather than over in Virginia, where here we are just so humid. But Anyway, the point of tonight's show is to talk about the lore of the woman in white. Some people know her as the woman in white. You might hear weeping woman. Spanish countries call her Llorona. And then, of course, there's a lot of other names across the world that they call her too that I don't know how to pronounce correctly, so I'm not going to butcher them. But I will be talking about them. We're going to travel around the world to talk about appearances of the woman in white, what made this particular spirit the woman in white, why she wears white. All those, theories of why it might just be in our brain. We're going to cover everything. Hello, Glenda. I was just talking about your tarot class. Way too hot here, 100 degrees in Boulder. Yes, 100. Oh my God. Never mind. I can't come there then. Although you do have some spooky locations I want to go see. So, do you guys believe that the woman in white is real? I mean, you'll have a chance to look through all the research I have tonight, and then you can make a decision. But in case you already have a opinion, I would love to know. Let me think. If you've ever, when I was in college, I think Supernatural first came out, and I loved that show at the beginning, the first few seasons, and it kind of went weird. But the very first episode of Supernatural, they featured the woman in white. And the reason why I loved Supernatural back then in my young researching days is the first couple of seasons, they used real lore, like the Wendigo, Weeping Woman, all that stuff. So it was really refreshing to see TV try to plug that in. And of course, the Conjuring series made Llorona, which is very, very Hollywood-fied, but we will talk about that legend as well. She is really good. Let's see. Let me pull some of these up real quick. Thank you, Keith. I don't know about the woman in white. That's okay. Of course, I don't expect you to automatically believe you. Listen to me ramble about her. I'm going to give you some other scientific possibilities. Thank you, Glenda. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you. Also, I just want to put this up real quick. You see this beautiful person that's on the screen right here. Well, you can't see her because it's her logo. But Miss Zaza will be my special guest next Friday. She is extremely gifted, beautiful soul that inspires me, and I'm going to be pleasurably interviewing her. I'm so excited. We're going to talk about her story. I don't want to give too much away, so just make sure you tune in next Friday at 9 to see her beautiful face and hear all of the things she can do, things I got to witness in person. She is extremely gifted, guys, and I cannot wait to show the world. So let's get started. Okay. Can't wait to hear your knowledge about the one. I appreciate you. And I love Zaza. I love a name. I always yell at she passed away last year. But I used to yell at my mom all the time. I was like, you could have gave me a cool name. And she was like, in 87, Ashley was the most popular name. And I'm like, we were supposed to be different. I never had no cool name or nickname or anything. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. So let's take it way back to start out. I will be here to haunt her. Glenda's going to be here to haunt. Check out I will. Thank you. Yes, check out this band. I'm just making sure I show you guys up here. Okay, so obviously it is nearly impossible to trace back the very, very, very first sighting of the woman in white, or whatever you want to call her. However, I want to start with a particular goddess because I figure you can't go any further back than a goddess, and then we can trickle on from there. Because the reason I want to start with a goddess is because once you hear her story, you will kind of see how that information trickles down throughout the cultures and throughout the centuries on what the woman in white is today. So, as always, I have plenty of pictures for you guys. Just give me a second to pull some up. My folder here. All right, let's start with this beautiful Aztec goddess. Come up. There we go. Okay. Got it. Okay, as you can see, obviously we don't have a real-time photo of a goddess because, hello. But in Aztec culture, she is one of the very first goddesses. Now, she is the goddess of fertility. She's also the goddess of death. She kind of handles all feminine sides, right? She's also known as a snake woman. Now, I broke down how to say her name because it's really, I'm going to put it in the chat real quick how to spell it. Let's see. C-I. Please, I know Glenda's probably going to laugh at me when I try to butcher this name. A-U. I've heard it said so many times and I still mess it up. Okay. So it's pronounced C-Y-Col-Alt, but she is the Aztec goddess. She is the original, well, not maybe not the original, but as close as possible to the woman in white story. Now, obviously, in this photo, she's not wearing white. However, when people see her, she appears in a white gown or a white light. Obviously, most, divine beings are usually golden or they're white or, depending on the person and all that. So, but she's a lot of times seen in this white gown. Now, she is all about motherhood. She's also about warfare. She is kind of like your phenomenal feminine energy. And she will not play around. Let me show you another photo of a actual clay made from somebody of her, because if you ever was to get statues and things like that. So if you wanted to have her in your home, this is kind of what she's gonna look like if you were to go out and buy a statue to represent her. Just as beautiful. I don't know why it's showing me too. So this is what she looks like. Now, not only does she wear white, obviously, when she is seen, by people today, but she's also heard crying. She's crying for women. She's crying for women that lose their life in childbirth, women that can't bear babies. She's also comes in very upset when there's a lot of war going on. I mean, think about today. Today's a hot mess. But she is seen a lot then. And if you are somebody that does ritualistic work or things like that, obviously she can be called on for many different abilities and needs. She is beautiful, huh? And again, let me just pull this right back up. This is the correct way to spell her name if you're interested in doing more research. Again, as you know, I butcher names. But let me just make sure I wrote some notes so I don't forget anything. She is the closest form to how we got La Llorona, because La Llorona is known as the weeping woman. She's the one that's always wailing, always crying. And we're going to talk about her in a whole different second here. But she is kind of the beginning. And she had a saying, like she would scream about, destruction and things going on in the world and, protect your children, things like that. So again, let me show that other picture because I think it's much more prettier. And when I think about goddesses, this is how I see them. Right here. Okay. Isn't she so pretty? Again, guys, I'm sorry. My cat just threw everything off the table. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. Sorry about that loud noise. The cat is destructive. All right. Let's go to Malta next. All right. And now he's going to cry because he destroyed everything. All right. Let me remove these. I don't know why it's showing me these little pictures down here. I'm going to have to figure that out next time. Okay, so here's obviously Malta. You can have to pull up a map and find it. It's way far away from where I'm at. But this kicks off another beginning woman in white story. Now, it is well known that at this palace, there was a beautiful woman who was going to be forced to marry a man that she was not in love with. She didn't want anything to do with him, but politically, back then and in some cultures today, a lot of marriages are arranged. And the legend goes that she was so distraught about having to marry this particular man. And I don't know anything about him. As far as I know, he would have been a good suitor. He probably came from a family with money. It was probably a really big political move, but she was not in love. She is not who he wanted. And she felt very, very forced. And this is possibly the niece of the Grand Master of the Knights of St. John in 16th century. So this is how far back this goes. And she wanted an escape. So she decided to unalive herself by jumping off the top of the tower you see there. And since she did that, they say that she is still walking the grounds. Maybe she regrets doing what she did. I don't know. I'm not her. but she is well seen by a lot of guards, a lot of visitors. They will see a woman in a white gown walking around, especially at night, around this beautiful castle. Now, I don't know if you were able to actually visit this in person. You probably could. I didn't really dig into that, but she is. And I have another photo of it. One second for a different view. Here's another view of the village or town. I'm not sure what they would consider this over there. But again, so you have a young woman who is being forced to marry a man, doesn't want to, doesn't feel like she has any other way out. Because remember, back then there are no women rights. You know, you do what you're told. You have arranged marriages. You had to obey your father and soon to be husband. So she unfortunately decided to take a different route, and now she still is said to haunt. She is sometimes seen crying, and sometimes she's just seen in a white gown walking around, just depending on who you are when you see. So again, usually a woman in white is wrapped around something like love gone wrong, a woman has lost her husband, a woman that has lost her children, a woman that's betrayed, a woman that has, her man cheated on her. It's usually some way around that creates this legend. And that's how we all start. So again, this is in Malta from 16th century, and this still stands today. Now let's go to Italy next, because this is a pretty cool one. Italy, which is one of my bucket list places. All right. So we're going to start here so you can see this. Now in Italy, let me close this other one. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you guys. Now here we are in Italy, and this is a castle, obviously. And the picture that you see depicted on the wall is a young albino girl that she painted. The reason she appears blue in the picture, because in life they say she painted herself blue, and that she mysteriously vanished. That they don't know if somebody, killed her, if she was abducted, if she was not of this world, and maybe she was something else. I don't know. But the reason I chose to show her tonight is because she appears every 5 years in a full white gown. And you'll notice it's her because her skin will still be blue. But she'll be in a full white gown, and she comes on the summer solstice every 5 years. She will reappear. Okay, every 5 years. Again, there's no real back history of her other than the fact that she was, let's see, what year was it? 1375. So this is very old. 1375. She was trying to hide her features. Again, guys, women back then, if you were beautiful, you were pawned off to the nearest suitor, and then, you didn't have a say. She didn't want that, so I guess she felt like if she painted herself blue, then she would not be appeasing to certain men. And next thing you know, she vanished. Now, some people say she vanished because she was never truly human. I don't know. But she comes back every 5 years on the summer solstice and travels around this particular home. I have another photo of it so you can actually see outside of her. I just want to show you guys her depicted picture that still hangs on the wall today. Here's the actual place. Isn't it beautiful? So here's the actual place. Again, this is in Italy. Look at that view. That is so beautiful. Just make sure I didn't miss anything of her. So she would fall into the category of just disappearance. I think that if she was a real person, because I wasn't there, if you walked around and you saw a blue person, you'd probably, people would probably take them to God knows what with them. I don't know. But it sucks. And this is where she is seeing this hall right here, this pathway. She is still seen in white, walking this of her blue skin. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Betsy. I don't have a picture of Betsy, but I have her gravestone here. We're going to talk about her. She's pretty interesting. So let me get this out the way. All right, we have Miss Betsy. Her name was Elizabeth Betsy Reed. She was a real person, very real. She is from Illinois, And hello, Michelle. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome in. We're talking about the woman in white. So, what's interesting about her, fun fact, she was the first and maybe the only, I have to fact check that because it's been quite a few years, but she was the very first woman to be executed by hanging in Illinois, right? To actually stand like and to go to court and get and testify. And she was said to have unalived her husband by poisoning him with a toxic plant, which I have right here. Let me pull that up. I hope they pull it over. Here we go. Now, I don't know what Mr. Husband did, but whatever he did, she did not like. So she took this plant right here and she decided to make a soup. This plant, the leaves, the stem, it's called acinote or something like that. It's very, very toxic. If ingested, you will. I mean, today they might have an antidote, but back then there was no antidote. I don't think there is today, but I could be wrong because science has come a long way. But this particular plant will unalive you. Now, she did not ever confess to doing it. She was accused of doing it. So let me be very clear on that. She never said, "Hey, I killed my husband." They said she took this plant. He when they did the checked him out to see why he died. He did die of poisoning. They traced it back to this plant. Now I don't know if she like grew it or how she got the plant, but somehow he got the plant in the system. He passed away, and she was the only person standing to blame. Now maybe she did it. I don't know. She was executed and hung. And so what's interesting about her is so her tombstone. Let me go back to that. Because they did give her a tombstone because for a while she didn't have one. So her husband and her have a tombstone together. My mom seen a lady in white. Oh, let me see this. My mom seen a lady in white that walked in the hallway near the bedrooms. That is so cool. I love that. I absolutely love that. She was considered a witch. It was very abusive. In the last drop, when she was raped by him, he beat her to the point of making her lose her baby. Thank you, Glenda. I'm glad you knew that. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave that up for a second because I want to talk about since her passing. Thank you for that. And okay, well, there you go. So she did do it. And, I'm not going to say he deserved it because that would be cruel for me to say. But, you guys take your own opinion. So she is absolutely seen since then. Now, what's interesting is years later, after her passing away, there's a high school. It was called, it's called Lawrenceville High School. It was located near the area, maybe not perfectly exact, but as close as possible, near the area where they hung her, and it burned down. And they say that it burned down because she cursed the area. Because, like Linda said, maybe she was a witch. I don't know. I mean, everybody was accused of being a witch back then, so who knows? But so it burned down. And since it's burned down in that particular area, I don't know if they rebuilt it up or not. But since that time, they still see her in all white, roaming around, very mad, very vengeful. Apparently, she feels like the story says, and of course, she can't not here to speak for herself, but the story says that she feels betrayed by her town. Now, if you can see, if a woman is being abused to the point where she loses her child, and you try to get help, and then they say, "Oh no, you did it, so we're gonna unalive you," I would be a little mad too. That's enough to make anybody mad. So maybe she does feel betrayed. Nobody protected her. Somebody should have stood in and protected her from him. Okay. So again, her name is Elizabeth Betsy Reed. She was very real. So I know some of the stories we talked about is alleged or possibilities, but she was a real human being. And let me just make sure. They finally gave her this tomb in 1988. Before that, they didn't have her one. So finally somebody was like, "Hey, let's do this." School burned down close to her site. She was executed May 23rd, 1845. That's what I forgot to include. And again, that plant, please do not try to grow it, unless you know what you're doing, because it is very toxic. As far as I know, it's still a very active plant in the world. But, be careful. All right. let's move on to the next person. Let's see, who should we do next? I have a whole list here. I guess we'll start with, since we talked about the goddess, let's talk about Llorona. I don't know why they keep putting the pictures down here. Okay, so I don't know how many of you guys watch the Conjuring universe. It's very Hollywoodified, so please take all those movies with a grain of salt. Do the research on the actual case, and then watch the movie. But so Llorona is a legend. Now, if you were to watch the movie, if I'm correct, I think the husband cheats on her and she goes into psychosis and she unfortunately drowns her children, and then she snaps out of it after it happens and she regrets it. So she unalives herself, and or at least that's the Weeping Woman story. And she unalives herself, and then she's forced to roam crying for her children. Now, I think, and also is let me see. Sorry, I was trying to make sure I'm not ignoring you guys. Hello, it took me a couple minutes longer to get over here, and I thought Friday. Oh no, well, I'm glad you're here now. Perfect timing. Now, honestly, also to be fair, Llorona is also a really well-known legend or bedtime story too. That over in Latin American countries, they will tell their children, or at least they used to. I don't know if they still do today, but they would tell their children. Heidi says, "Hi, Glenda and Zaza," that if you're out roaming the streets, she's going to come get you, right? Because if you think about, it's crazy because like in Germany and other countries, some of their bedtime stories to scare children is insane. But to each his own. But she's used to that saying, "Hey, you got to be good, or she's going to come get you." Or if you're out alone at night roaming the streets, she's going to come get you. A lot of people, I'm just making sure I'm catching the chat. A lot of people, especially in the Latin countries, will still hear her wailing, right? Let me just make sure. Obviously, La Llorona means the weeping woman if it was translated to English as close as possible, because she's weeping. And of course, she's usually seen in all white, mourning. Usually sometimes she'll have a veil, sometimes she doesn't. It's just going to depend on what exact country you are in at that point. I have another depiction of her, though. That's a little different. That's painted. I like to give credit to artwork. I'm really big on artwork and giving credit. So here is another thing. As you can see, she is walking the stream. She's always seen near water. Usually, Llorona is always seen near streams, water, rivers, crying for her kids. As you can see in the picture, she is holding a baby. She is in the water in the picture. Hello, welcome in. So happy you're here. Okay, just a quick question. Did you look into the Lady in White in the UK? Did you research on Lady in the Lake? Wanted to ask while I could. I did look into some of the Lady in the White UK. I don't know if I included that in this one. I'll have to go through this. And there's a few different Lady of the Lakes, so I have looked into some of those too. Maybe I should do a part 2, because there's a bunch of, even over here, there's a couple of Ladies in the Lake stories. It's really cool. She's everywhere. Okay. Oops, let me hide that. Okay. Hello. Everybody's saying hello, guys. I'm so happy here. So again, La Llorona is predominantly Latin American, and then of course the movie took it off. Now everybody usually knows her. Usually you'll be laying down and you might hear her screaming. Not screaming, I'm sorry. You will hear her crying, and they said because she's searching for her children. Is she a real woman that unallowed her kids? They say yes, but I don't have like the articles to prove that, obviously. So I'll let you guys decide if you think she's a real woman or she's not. That's up to you. There are cases of women that their men cheat on them and they do go in psychosis. They are so stricken with anger and fear that they go in psychosis, and they do a lot of stuff that they don't remember doing. And then when they snap out of it, they have to face that. And then sometimes they decide to check out. And sometimes they just live with that for the rest of their life, depending on the story. Hello. I've heard of the Woman in White. Yeah, so we're going to dig into some of the United States in a few minutes, but I'm trying to touch on, of course, some other ones. So again, Llorona. Now, the next one's not really, it's going to come up. I want to touch on this because depending on where in Ireland you are, she will wear white. Okay. This is a banshee. Now, before you say that's not the woman in white, just hold on. Now, usually a banshee is not always considered a woman in white. However, in certain parts of Ireland, she is seen. Usually, you don't really see her. You hear her before you see her. She is seen in an all-white gown. So she is the closest thing to Ireland's woman in white. Because remember, I'm trying to hit all over the world. So if you're in Ireland, banshees are harbingers of bad omens or harbingers of death. They do not come to haunt you. They come to you for one purpose, to warn you. You or somebody you love or know is about to get very sick. Somebody near you is about to die. Maybe you, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But it's usually they're harbingers of death or bad omens. Something bad is coming. You will hear their wail. Their wails are very piercing to the ear. If you've ever had the ability to hear them, you would know. They're predominantly cultured from Ireland, but banshees are all over the world. I mean, every culture, just like the woman in white, has a banshee story. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. She's usually seen as a very pale woman in flowing white clothes. And this depiction of her, she's an elderly lady in darker clothes, or at least, it appears that, but this is a black and white picture. Obviously, like I said, her wail foretells death to someone in the family or sickness. And this comes back to Celtic mythology. So you can really dig deep. Again, this is not a perfect woman in white, but this is the closest that if you were in Ireland of Irish culture, this is what you would get. Hello. The Enchantress. Yes. Is that the one that lures you to the water or the forest? I was reading about one. It was like a spirit. It's like a close to a fairy. Is that the same thing? It was kind of called similar to that word. And they say it's like a version of a fairy and it's in all white and it lures you out. You have to let me know. I might be thinking of something else though. I recall hearing about the different colors mean different types of banshees. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. There are different colors. And again, Germany has a banshee. The UK has a banshee story. Here in the United States, we have one. But the only similarity is obviously they're not always going to be in white. But the similarity to the banshees is they're not haunting you. They are warning you, and they're screaming. They wail. They wail very loud. If you go on the internet, you'll see alleged videos of people that say they capture the whale. I don't know if that's true or not, but you're welcome to go do your own research and dig and see if you think so. But you're absolutely right there about that. All right. Let's move on to the Philippines. This road. Where is this road at? Do I have? Oh, yeah, here we go. So there's a particular road in the Philippines. And this is where a lot of our hitchhiker ones come through. And we're going to talk about a few different ones of those. So this is a road in the Philippines, and this is called the Balete Drive. So she apparently, there's two different forms of this story. She's carrying a baby and hitchhikes. The driver who picks her up usually dies. Okay, well, I'm thinking about a completely different M word then. Thank you for clearing that up. There's another form of woman in white that resembles like a fairy, and they lure you out. But I didn't include that one in tonight's because it was more like fairy lore, and that's for another night. I haven't encountered a banshee. Oh, my goodness. You have to tell me about that. I want to know about that. Was it before somebody died? I need to know. You have to tell me that. I want to know. So this particular road, there's two different lures, and they kind of obviously got when somebody tells a story and they tell somebody and then they tell the next person, it gets messed up. So there's two forms. Now there's one that a woman is just driving down the road and she crashes into the tree and she passes away on impact. There's another lure that she was assaulted by her taxi driver and then crashed and passed away. Which one is the correct one? I'm not sure because they both are linked. It could be two cases too. But when you do the research on this road, you're going to see that story is kind of compelled and stuck together. So I'm not sure if it's two that got stuck together or the person that's repeating the story throughout the years doesn't have the full breakdown, right? Hello. So she's another one like he said. So she doesn't have a baby, but she's in all white. So imagine you're driving down this road that's on this picture because this is an exact road. and you are driving, paying attention to your own business, and you look in your rearview mirror, and there's a woman in a white dress sitting in your back seat. There she is. She doesn't this particular woman in white does not bother you. I mean, obviously the fact that she probably just almost had a stroke, because why is there a woman in your back seat that looks like a ghost and all white? You're probably stroking out. But once you get past that, she doesn't hurt you. She doesn't do anything crazy. She's just in your back seat. And then once you leave this particular road, she vanishes. Some people will see her standing next to the tree that she crashed in. And sometimes people will attempt to stop, because at first you think there's a woman alone at night. Hello, let's stop. But a lot of the stories is they're just driving, and next thing you know, boom, she's in the back seat. I would probably stroke out, because, and then try to hurry up and get my phone out and take a picture because that's me. After I get that initial jump scare. I don't do well with jump scares. I have no issue with ghosts. It's the jump scare part for me. I'm like, you got to let me get through that. So again, this is in the Philippines. This is their version of The Woman in White. Is really well known there. They have more, obviously. I just picked out one out of many because this is well known. So people that drive down this road, even if you do not see her in your back seat, a lot of people will report every time they come down this road, no matter how many times they've done it, their hair will all of a sudden stand up on their arms or the back of their neck. They will feel chills. They will feel like they're being watched. It's a really eerie feel. Now, everybody sees her, but everybody reports feeling something, right? Abnormal. Yeah, no, she doesn't. She only stays on this road. There's another one I'm going to talk about that does a cemetery. Hold on, that one's coming. I have that one too. I also have Resurrection Mary coming. I have a bunch of them coming. Let's see. We're doing good on time. Let's try if I can bust out all these. Okay. Let me see who we got next. Okay. I want to just touch on Japan a little bit, because this is not really Woman in White, but it's their version that's close to us. So I'm trying to touch on all major areas here. And then we'll come back to the United States. Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you. So this is Yuri. You guys have heard me talk about the Yuri many times. Yuri pretty much is the Japanese version of a ghost. Now, as far as Woman in White for Yuri is concerned, is these women, their komodos when they are being buried are usually beautiful, and sometimes they're white and pink or white and red, but sometimes they're all white because it's very pure, very, I don't know what to say about it, but it's just very nice, very clean. Even though she's not considered a woman in white, it's the closest thing that Japan has. Now, she usually are spirits, and when they pass, they're very strong emotions. A lot of them have unfinished business, so they're still floating around until they finish it. There's a whole, I can break it down, Japanese culture. When you pass away, there's certain things you have to do before you can go on to the next place you're going to go. And if you have done some things, you're not allowed to, you're stuck. If you haven't finished your business, you're stuck. If you suddenly pass away, sometimes you're not, I don't want to say stuck, that's a terrible word, but you get my point. You're still here. So again, a lot of these beautiful Yuri women are seen in Japan in all white. So there you go for our closest for Japan. That was kind of quick. The Ring, there you go, Ed. Yes. So The Ring, what was the other one? Oh God, I wrote it down. The Grudge and The Ring. If you ever watch The Ring and she climbs out that well thing, but she's in all white and she's got that long hair in her face. It's kind of yuck. That's interesting. Could you imagine? It was The Ring or was The Grudge? It was the movie thing where if you watched the movie, you had 7 days. It was one of them, right? I don't know. I get them all blended up here. I think one of them is you watch the movie. If you watch the movie, you die in 7 days. Something like that. I don't know. The Grudge terrified you, really? I don't know of any movie that oh my goodness. Oh, I have one from Chile I want to talk about. I know I said I'm going to the United States. I'm coming, guys, but I really like to hit the other countries too. So this is a depiction. This is not really the person, but this is a depiction of La Novia. So Novia just pretty much means girlfriend in English. But in Chile, they call her La Novia. So she is what we call the ghost bride. So she is how we have to think for the appearance of a woman in white wearing a wedding dress, right? Comes from her. throughout time, there's many cultures of women either getting murdered or dying on the way to the altar or leaving the altar before they even get there or deciding to run and something happens. But going back to Chile and the woman in white, this is where the wedding dress kicks in, the actual wedding dress. Right. But one of them, yeah, you're right. They're both. But I think one of them is the one where you, like, if you watch the movie, they tell you got 7 days. Or is that a different one? Oh, my goodness. I'm about to go back now tonight, guys, or this weekend and watch them both to figure out which one I'm thinking about. So she is the one you'll be driving down the road. It doesn't matter which road. We're in Chile, okay? And it could be anywhere in the world. But for this story, we're in Chile. And she's the one that's on the side of the road with her finger up saying, hey, you know how they stick the thumb up and you're like, I need a ride. She is the one asking for a ride. Now, you are supposed to not pick her up. But if you do, if you decide to allow her into your car, she is going to vanish and she will do one or two things. She'll either leave flowers behind or bloodstains. I think it has a lot to do with the personality and what the kind of person you are, depending on what kind of gift you're going to get. Don't quote me on that one, but that's the two things you're going to get. You're going to get flowers or bloodstains in your car. And so pretty much she is a symbol of unfulfilled love. So apparently in Chile culture, she was going to get married, and I guess she lost her man before they made it. In mourning, she is an imprint of that, right? Let's see. Heidi says, to be honest, they all scare me. I've never really watched horror movies, but my kids love them. I told them you can never erase visions. Oh my goodness. You know what movie I like? I like movies that, I'm trying to think. They're not really real, but they're close. Like Anthony, maybe because I'm biased. I love Anthony Hopkins, guys. But The Right, I'm really big on demonology. If you guys don't know by now, I've done a lot of demonology classes and work. So if you never watched this movie, The Right, it's an old movie now. Anthony Hopkins stars as the Exorcist. To me, it's like one of the closest. Mine is the Hollywood side of it, of like the people flying in there and things like that. But as far as like what Exorcist and all can go through, I think that's very close, right? So I like that one. I enjoyed the Pope's Exorcist too until it got to the end and it was really weird. But there's a lot of good movies out there. And of course they have the gory ones too. But I like the ones that are usually based on real cases. Or as real as possible, which I should do that. Did you guys know? I'm going to move on, but most people don't know, and I told my TikTok peeps this, but movies like Nightmare on Elm Street was based on a real situation where these refugees, they came over here and they were having nightmares and they kept saying that something was going to kill them in their sleep, and they all died mysteriously in their sleep. You all should check that story out and then watch it again. And that's how the person who wrote Freddy Krueger got the inspiration. A lot of these are inspired by real events, and then, of course, they make them all fancy. Best movie? Yes, much like the Pope's Exorcist. Yes. I just wish for the Pope's Exorcist they wouldn't have went so Hollywood-fied. But I guess Hollywood-fied sells tickets, right? So, yeah, check out the original scary movies and the backstories. We could do a live on that. That's really cool. This is true. You can't erase visions. I think about the day on Chucky. Guys, that's my uncle. He lives with me, and I'm always telling him I'm going to buy him a Chucky dog because he's terrified of him, and clowns. My uncle doesn't like clowns either. So, like, when it comes on, oh, yeah, he doesn't like that. All right, so this is Chile's Woman in White, guys, in case you wasn't aware. Now, I want to touch base on one more quick. Got to be quick because I'm running out of time. Let me see. Is it going to load? I think I'm still loading here. Okay, yeah. Real quick, I want to show this because over in Europe, this is the version of a woman in white. And she's seen as a noblewoman around the castle, right? Usually these women have passed away very tragically. Now, maybe they got really sick and didn't make it. Maybe they passed away in childbirth. Maybe they weren't allowed. Who knows what. But they appear just like this walking around in Europe and around the castles, around a lot of the big places. A lot of these apparitions look like her. Pale skin, beautiful long white dress with the arms covered. Color hair will be different based on visual. Let's see. He says, Heidi, I can geek out on lore for hours. Any lore that's interesting, including game lore. That's funny. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can get a couple. I need two more to get through. Okay. But I just want to show Europe. Okay. Now back to United States. Let's see. Do we want to do? Okay. Yeah. Let's do her. I don't have a photo of Resurrection Mary. I want to talk about her. But I have a photo that I pulled that people claimed is her or is a woman in a white siding. I did not take this picture. But this is what people say, it would look like. So we're going to use this one for a preference. So Resurrection Mary, it takes place she is buried in Resurrection Cemetery in Chicago. She was at what's the name of it? She was at O. Henry Ballroom, which is still standing today, but the name has been changed. And I'm sure it's been, redone and stuff like that. So she was leaving. She was at a dance. She was leaving and she passed away on the way home. She never made it home. And she died there. And so to this day, men reports picking up a beautiful woman in a white dress only for her to vanish after they passed the cemetery. So she is the one that they got for Supernatural. It's like, can you give me a ride home? So men will be going on the road. This beautiful woman will be standing on the side of the road and they'll ask her, hey, can you take me home? Most men will say, sure. She gets in the car. And as soon as they get past a certain area where her body is buried, she disappears into thin air. Again, this is Resurrection Cemetery in Chicago. You can look up her story. She was another very real person. And somebody that went to Resurrection and was looking for her captured this photo. Again, we can depict the photo and say it's something else, but just for funsies tonight, I brought it up because I don't have an actual picture of her, but she was a real woman who passed away. And a lot of men over the decades have claimed to pick up a woman on the side of the same road, and they think they're taking her home, and then she's gone. 3 a.m. thoughts. I love it. Okay, who is next? Oh, I gotta end with Virginia. Okay, one more, guys, and I promise I'll let you guys go. I still got a few minutes. Okay, I gotta end with Virginia because Virginia is very near and dear to my heart. I've lived here my whole life. It is rich in history. So I have to end. Oh, I had one more for Union Cemetery. We'll have to do a part 2 because I have more on here I'm seeing. So I have to end with Virginia, though. So if you've never been to Virginia, you should come because there's a lot of history here. But this is Bedford, Virginia. So this is called the White Lady of Avneal, Ashley. Bedford, Virginia. So this is during the Civil War era. Part 2. Yeah, I have a bunch more to talk about. We have we have White Lady Road, and I have both been there. I was in a place. Ooh, that is awesome. Same type of story. Mom looking for her children. Isn't that sad? That would probably, I think about that. I would be looking for my children, so I can understand it. Yeah, definitely part 2, but I want to end on this one. So there's a woman that's the mistress of this estate. And during the Civil War era, her name is believed to be Miss Mary Frances Burrow. And she always appears in the windows in a white gown. So if you are able to go here and maybe you're at night looking around, you might see her in the window. Yeah. In Bedford, Virginia. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything about her. So they pretty much said that she is, Bedford's woman in white. Bedford's not very big. So she is pretty much just protects the house. That is, because some spirits get, think about that. You work your whole life. We talk about this all the time. You work your whole life for your home. Maybe you still want it, or maybe she's waiting for something. But I have another photo I pulled from the historic records from Bedford. One of their children actually is passed away now, but lived in the home until they were 102. Let me show you this. I think it's so cool. I have a big heart for Civil War era. So it's not a great picture, obviously, guys. It's a long time ago. But this particular person right here, this is the same place too. And of course, it's black and white because it's old. But this particular child of theirs lived in the home until they were 102, and they are still seen there too. However, they're not a woman in white. Miss Francis is seen in all white, and she's always in the windows. So if you get a luxury of going up there, you might capture her. Here we go. Oh, there we go. You can go to it. And also known as the William Burrell House. Yep. It's a historic home located in Bedford, Virginia, and now open to the public by appointments. Oh, Ed, I see a trip for us team. We should do that. I would love to go with the team. We should get some peeps together. But that's what it looked like back then. And of course, this is what as close to possible. This is what it's like now. Isn't it beautiful? Could you imagine a house that big? So I'm going to do a part 2 because I have a whole 2 more pages of places here. Like Union Cemetery is a really big one. If you've never been to Union Cemetery, Connecticut, there's some in Colorado. I mean, there's a woman in white story for so many places. And I didn't get to touch on Africa, and I didn't get to touch on a lot more countries. So I'm definitely going to do a part 2. And if you guys want me to, I want to, let me see. Okay. I'm going to go back to just a picture of the beautiful goddess. Don't forget, guys, next week I have a special guest. I will be posting that. Maybe when I get off of here, I'll go ahead and schedule it. I have a beautiful guest. Ms. Zaza will be here to tell us her story. She is very gifted. She does a whole lot of things spiritually. And she also has her own little business that she does. So we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about her story and all her gifts and all that fun stuff. So I would love to know, guys. Yes, nice place. I'm telling you guys, come to Virginia. We have tons of history here, especially if you're Civil War person or really Jamestown, colonial Virginia person. This is the place for that. I would love to know, guys, before I jump off here, I got about a couple more minutes. So what do you guys think? Do you think that women and rights real? Do you think that, it's just all residual imprints? What do you think? I would love to know. Do you think that it's something that it's so many stories throughout time that we just start believing it ourselves? I would love to know you guys' theory before I jump off of here. And in case you're just tuning in, that's an Aztec goddess. I've had a lot of research on gods and goddesses. Thank you. I appreciate it. Again, that's my guest next week, guys. So for next week, you can see her beautiful face because she doesn't have a picture there. Okay, part 2. I will definitely do that. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I have a lot of fun things, too, and I'm going to add the horror movie because a lot of people don't know the origins of a lot of horror movies, and I think that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun to talk about. Let me see. Glenda says, I think they are real. Thank you. This was great. Looking forward to next week in part 2. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Ed. I appreciate you. And shout out to Ed, guys. Ed, he is such a big help. He helps me with my banners. He gave me this amazing opportunity. I'm very thankful to him and all Rift Nation Network staff. Definitely real. From my experience, let me just pull these up. From my experience, she is definitely real. I agree. In case you guys care to know, I definitely believe in her. But I believe in most paranormal stuff. Banshee feels ancient. Yeah. Banshees are very ancient. Had fun learning. Thank you, Kristen. Real. Yes. Oh, I love it. Thank you guys so much for the input. You guys in the chat mean so much to me because, it's nice to have feedback. Yes. Banshees go, oh my God, it goes way back. And again, she's never even if it's a she, forgive me if I'm using a gender specific. I don't know. She always appears as a woman. So, they're never meant to haunt you. They're just meant to warn you, and they just get a bad rap. And again, that's kind of scary if something's screaming at you. But if you've ever heard angels talk, it's just scream too. It's not scream. The frequency that certain divine beings talk. Well, I don't want to say talk, but communicate on. Sometimes I'm like, no, cover the ears. English, human speak. So I tell Glenda, how do they speak human? Because a lot of times spiritual beings will talk in a really hard for us to hear frequency, and that's where a lot of them get a bad rap. Banshee's crying when there's a death in the house, isn't she? Yep. Usually you'll hear her cry before the death. Not to say that you won't when they already died. That can happen too. But usually sometime before you will hear her wail. Right? And there are people who claim, and I'm not saying they're wrong because I wasn't there, so I can't accuse them either way. But if you go onto the internet, there's people that have videos of their in their home and they hear that wail and they record it. Of course, you have to really do your research whether that's true or not, because I'm not there to say, hey, yeah, I was there too. Ashley, all beings except humans, they speak. I know, you're right. That was a dumb statement, huh? But to be fair, some higher up beings are very, very loud in their frequency levels. But I love it. I'm thankful for the gifts that I have. I think cats fighting, or yikes. Yeah. Also, fun fact, guys, I'm sure most of you guys know because you're mostly like paranormal stuff, but your pets will notice a spirit before you do. Their frequency level, speaking of frequency, a cat's hearing frequency is a whole different being from us. Like they can see and they can hear well before we'll see or hear them. So pay attention to your pets. I know Glenda's shaking her head like, what is wrong with her? All right, guys. Well, I think that is it for tonight. Yes, they are, especially when they want your attention. Yeah. And they tend, guys, to want your attention like 3 o'clock in the morning when you're so good and asleep. And they're like, or, for me, it's like I'm finally getting 5 seconds to jump in the shower and the kids are like occupied. Next thing you know, it's like, here comes the rings. But no, again, I'm grateful. So, again, I want to take the time to thank each and every single one of you guys who have tuned in, who will tune in. I will see you guys next week. I appreciate everybody that commented. That means more to me than anything else. If you liked, if you shared, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, guest next week, and then we'll pick up again with part 2. I have a ton more, so don't worry, and plenty of pictures. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Make sure you do something good for yourself. I'm sending all my love. Have a great one.